Thanks for joining us this evening for the next and basically the most significant meeting we've got in relation to our theme for December for Let's Talk About the Climate Emergency, which is about a low carbon Christmas. And I'm delighted that we've been joined by Laura Young from Tearfund Scotland, better known as Less Waste Laura, to over 40,000 followers on Instagram, I hasten to add, but more about that in a second. I'm equally delighted to be able to welcome you virtually from the rooftop of Gate Church behind me with their interesting solar panel scheme. I feel a bit like Santa Claus up top here. I'm glad I'm not wearing red. And obviously, I'm really pleased that Gate Church Carbon Saving Project are co-hosting tonight's meeting. The Carbon Saving Project obviously was initiated and is still strongly supported by Gate Church International in Perth Road, Dundee, who recently won our prestigious Gold Award for the fantastic work the wider congregation is doing on environmental issues, and a big chunk of that is supporting the work of the Carbon Saving Project. So I'm really pleased that we've been joined tonight by the project officer, Carrie Dees, who's going to say a few words to open the meeting as a co-host. Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thanks, Stephen. Hi, yes, I'm a project officer with the Carbon Saving Project. We've been going since 2013, and we're funded by the Scottish Government's a Climate Challenge Fund, and our aim is to help the community reduce their lower their carbon footprint, while also helping those in the community, so those who are experiencing difficulties in terms of difficulties with food and material poverty. And we do that over 3 projects. So we've got the Community Fridge, which is a project which is mostly run by volunteers, and we collect food that would good food that would be going to waste, that would be thrown out through the various supermarkets and food distribution centres throughout Dundee. So we collect that and take that to our Community Fridge, and we distribute that to the community. And it saves a huge amount of food from going to waste, and we're open every day. We've also got the Community Wardrobe, which stops clothes being wasted, and we're trying to encourage the reusing clothes and materials, which is opened every Friday and the last Saturday of the month, which is free for everybody to be able to access clothes and material that they can use. And also in the lead up to Christmas, we've been doing a re-gifting sort of corner in the Community Wardrobe, where people can donate any unwanted gifts that they have, where people can access them, and also things like Christmas decorations rather than buying new. So we're encouraging people to reuse as much as they can. And the final part of our project is workshops. So we run workshops of carbon literacy and to individuals and to businesses in and around Dundee. And we also do skill-based workshops to try and help people to find out ways to be able to reuse and have skills. Like we recently did a Christmas gift workshop to make things rather than buying new. And that's the main aspects of our project. Mostly run with volunteers, and we've got a few members of staff as well, but we hugely rely on our volunteers for running the project. But really so excited to be part of tonight's presentation, and really keen to hear all the tips that Laura has for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carrie, and we're really delighted to be joining with you again tonight. Obviously, we had our big annual gathering last year when we could still meet as a public gathering in a real place as opposed to a virtual place. Was at the Gate Church. We managed to see some of the fantastic work just before the Community Fridge opened. So we're really excited to see how well that's gone and how popular it is in Dundee. And we know you're making a fantastic impact as one of the real leading Climate Challenge Fund projects in Scotland. And we think the association with Gate Church is one of our equal congregations, and the Angus and Dundee local network area is really important for us. So delighted that you could be with us tonight, and thanks for sharing some of the fantastic story. And earlier this year, some of the people who've been in this meeting tonight were at the Feeding Our Communities discussion after the sort of first big lockdown period, where Felicity Wright was one of the speakers about the fantastic work that was being done by the Gate Church and the Carbon Saving Project, particularly during the summer, to help people in Dundee in relation to food insecurity. So really pleased you could be with us tonight. So we've still got a few other people joining us. So welcome if you've just come in the last few seconds. Welcome to Dundee, I should say, virtually, and the Gate Church Carbon Saving Project co-hosting tonight with Eco-Corrugation Scotland. I'm delighted to now welcome Laura Young. Now, Laura Young is here tonight with a number of hats on. She's obviously a very experienced TEDx speaker, an environmental scientist, MSc. She's very active in her church in the Greater Glasgow area, and she's a major influencer or sharing fantastic sustainable advice and tips through her Instagram account, a whole range of other work that she does. But tonight she's here in a role as Tearfund Scotland COP26 Advocacy and Campaigns Coordinator. And you all know I've been boring you rigid with the opportunities that we can all face next year, the excitement of having the COP26 climate talks coming to Glasgow and Scotland for all the churches and all faith groups in Scotland to really seize that opportunity to change what we do. But tonight we've got a really fascinating discussion that Laura's going to take us on. She's been sharing a lot of these tips online recently, and I'm really delighted that she's managed to find time to join us this evening to share some of those really interesting things you can do to have a low carbon Christmas. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, Laura.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's great to be with you all. I mean, first of all, I should say, with someone whose job title involves COP26, if anyone's getting bored of it being delayed and postponed, it's me. I know your pain, but we are almost there. We are, it's coming. But it's great to be with you. And also, I studied at Dundee, and so it feels great to be virtually in Dundee with you. I studied geography and environmental science at the University of Dundee. I lived on the Perth Road, just down the road from where the fridge now is. So on a trip back last year, I think it was, I actually made a stop to go and see the community fridge that was there that everyone was talking about. And so it's great to be with you all. As Stephen has said, I am here with a number of hats on, but it is mainly because I work for Tearfund Scotland and they wanted to really monopolise on my less waste tips this Christmas, and I'm all here for that. And so at Tearfund, if anyone doesn't know who Tearfund are, we are an international NGO. We work in over 50 countries across the world. And we work in some of the poorest countries in the world, but helping people to lift themselves out of poverty. And one of the things that Tearfund does, we do three things. We do disaster response aid, things like COVID, making sure that people are safe and getting resources to people. We do longer term sustainable projects, really working with communities over longer periods of time. But through both of those pieces of work, we now do a third thing, or have been doing this for a long time, but that is realizing what is keeping people in poverty. What are the systems of injustice that we need to be challenging? And so we do campaigning and advocacy work, and that looks different year upon year. But recently we have taken a massive stand for environmental justice because we have been noticing that things like plastic pollution and climate change are impacting not just us here in the UK and Scotland and Dundee, and not just people, but also the planet, and it's a global issue. And so we've been realising this and wanting to do some campaigning about it. And last year, we're still running it, you might have heard of our campaign called the Rubbish Campaign, which was campaigning against the 4 biggest producers of plastic. You can probably guess them. It's Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle and Unilever. I mean, we all probably have stuff in our homes made from them, even if we don't know it. They are huge companies. And so we were really advocating against that. And that was our big campaign. However, this year we launched Rebooted, and that is us joining with the Climate Coalition, who you might have heard of. I'll talk a bit more about that at the end. But we're really taking a big climate focus because COP26 is going to happen next year. It is going to happen. But what I would love to do tonight is take you on a journey talking about how we can have a sustainable Christmas. And if anyone has ever heard me talk before, my method of giving a talk is to throw a million things at you and hopefully something will stick. So some of this stuff might totally not be relevant to you. Some of it you might have already done, so don't worry about it. Some of it you might be able to even share your extra tips or things that you've done. But even if tonight you just leave with 1 or 2 things to take away, that is great. And also let's realise that it's the 15th of December. We've probably got trees up, decorations up, we've probably wrapped presents, we've probably bought presents. That's totally okay too. Loads of this stuff is to think about going into the new year. So throughout my presentation, I'm going to hopefully throw some stats, some Christmas waste statistics at you, just to really get us thinking about the problem, but also the solutions. Some of my top tips from decorations, gifts, and loads of other stuff. And at the end, I've got some pieces of activism that we can be doing, things that we can be finding online, petitions we can sign. I mean, it wouldn't be Tearfund if we didn't have a petition for you to sign at the end, but hopefully you can take some of this away and think about it over the Christmas time. And I will be keeping my eye on the time and finishing early so that we can have a bit of Q&A, or I love to hear any thoughts you have, any tips that you have, any advances on what I've said, any disagreements, love that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, share a presentation, and hopefully get you in the mood for Christmas if you aren't already. I know that we've got our tree up. So here we go. Let me move this around. Now, if I could have a thumbs up once this is, oh, press the wrong button. That's a good start. Stephen, could you give me a thumbs up if you could see that? Oh, perfect. Fantastic. Well, everybody, I've called this Have Yourself a Sustainable Christmas. This is also how to have a low waste Christmas, how to have a carbon-free, carbon-reduced Christmas. You could call this whatever you want, but ultimately it is some fun ways that we can look at Christmas time and how we can look at our waste and having less of an impact. Also, let's just recognise this Christmas is going to be so different to others. Give yourself some grace for what gets you in the spirit, gets you in the joy. Like, we all need to have grace for one another. And remember that we can do loads as an individual, but we need to be breaking the system. We need to be doing much more. But here is some hopefully helpful tips. But I wanted to start actually with some good news, some environmental good news that we've had this year, or that we've had in the past year, or even recently. The two things on the left are some screenshots of news articles, because we have this year managed to, in a few shops, ban glitter from things like Christmas cards. And we've also managed to ban, in some shops, plastic toys from crackers. Isn't this great? I mean, these are small victories, but things to keep in mind that we are making changes. We are getting the ball moving when thinking about waste and the environment when it comes to Christmas. But also on the right hand side, I took a screenshot of a tweet from Tearfund Action, because just at the weekend, it was announced that the UK is going to stop funding fossil fuel projects from around the world. This is a huge victory and things that people have been campaigning for years. And we are starting to see that with COP26 coming around the corner. Our government is making some decisions that are getting us on the right tracks. And although it's still not enough to get us to where we need to be, we need to celebrate these successes and celebrate some of this activism. And the bottom graph, it may look a bit confusing, but this is because the carbon budget, which is something that is done every single year, was just released as well over the weekend. And it is looking at carbon budgets for every year. And this year, we have reduced our carbon emissions by 7%. Now, of course, we have been in COVID, we've been in lockdown, but what this is showing us is not that we need to have a pandemic every year, but that there is opportunity for us to change. There is ways that we can change. Now, I'm not saying we need to keep living the way we're living. Oh my goodness, no, I can't wait to see my gran. But actually, I am looking at this graph and thinking there is a way out. There are ways that we can do it. And so let's be hopeful that we do have some positive environmental news that has just happened very recently, or has just happened this year. And this is by no means the most of it. So now I'm going to dive into some Christmas waste statistics. So we've gone from the positive, let's go to the slightly negative. So these are all statistics for the UK, and it is shocking to know that at Christmas time, we waste more than 30% than we do the rest of the year. Every single year in the UK, we use 227,000 miles of wrapping paper, which in the UK alone would go around the earth 9 times. Bonkers. The UK's biggest producer of tinsel alone produces 8,000 miles of it a year, which would go around the world almost once. And this one was shocking. Every single year in the UK on Christmas Day, there are 114,000 tonnes of plastic packaging thrown away and not recycled, which is, I did some maths, 16 times the weight of the steel in the Queensferry crossing. So at Christmas, we produce a lot of waste. And that waste comes from food, fashion, gifts, and so much more. But these are all places that we can make a difference. And I want you to see that even though Christmas Day might look different, we still have a bit of influence. We're still giving gifts to people. You could give them it in a different way. And so I'm going to give you some of my top tips for ways that we can reduce this waste. I'm going to dive into a few of these a little bit more, but some of you might have your decorations up already. I know that we do. We are using our Christmas decorations till they are on their last legs. We're reusing them time and time again. But actually, you might need a little spruce up in your own house, or maybe if you've already got them up, you can think about making some decorations for friends or family, or even this is just a craft for another year. But some amazing plastic-free decoration options. You can dry out citrus fruits. You can make salt dough decorations. You can take old Christmas cards, birthday cards, or thanks cards and turn them into boxes. You can make origami Christmas trees. You can make or buy a reusable advent calendar. And you can also make your own crackers. But to dive into these a little bit more, salt dough decorations are something that I've been exploring. I keep saying I'm not a creative person, and my friend Chris at work goes, but you were made by a creator God, so you are. So I am creative, I just need to work on it a bit more. But salt dough decorations are such a simple way that we can make something that will be preserved for years. And it is also a great craft for kids. And all you need is flour, salt, warm water, and an oven. You can make individual ornaments like baubles for your tree. You can make a whole big bunting of them. And basically this is like a really salty cookie, but because it's got salt in it, it'll preserve and it'll last years and years and years. And I have a friend at my church who has had hers. She taught me about this for over 30 years. So I'm going to let her know in 30 years whether mine is still around. But actually, what a great thing that we can be making. You can paint them, you can decorate them the way you like, and they look super stylish. Salt dough decorations, aren't they great? Another one, dried citrus fruit decorations. We have these on our Christmas wreath, and oh my goodness, it makes the house smell delicious. But all you need to make dried citrus fruit decorations is any citrus fruit of your choosing. Oranges and grapefruits are the best. Thinly slice them and bake them at a low heat. Or you could try the radiator method, which somebody has told me works. So you leave them on a radiator all day with a bit of parchment paper. And if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to use a full orange just to make some decorations, one thing you can try is if you have a satsuma, tangerine, orange, don't really know the difference, but they all work. When you're eating it, try and peel it really carefully so that you can get the biggest surface area of the peel as possible. Take a cookie cutter and cut out a star or a moon shape or a whatever shape from just the peel, let it dry out on a radiator, and voila. You have a dried fruit peel decoration. And these are great as well for decorating, for like putting on your wrapping paper, making things look a bit fancier. Or these are the little origami Christmas card boxes. And if anyone is interested in how you actually make these, I can either send Stephen this presentation that has the instructions in the notes, or you can go to Facebook and I've written it all there as well. But it's such an amazing way because they make small little boxes, great for putting in pieces of tablet or hanging them on a tree for little boxes, or even if you've just got small little gifts. An amazing way to save up your Christmas cards. So save them this year, make all these wee boxes. They're absolutely gorgeous. So those are just a few kind of decorations that we can make from waste. Other ways that we can be sustainable. I have not done any Christmas wrapping this year. I think I might go for the naked wrapping approach just because I can't be bothered. But actually there's loads of ways we can wrap sustainably. One of the things I used to do, which I'm a bit sad about this year, is I used to, at the end of a working day, if I saw a used Metro newspaper lying on my commuter train home, I used to take it with me and I would use that for wrapping paper throughout the year. But you can use old newspapers, old magazine papers. I use the toilet roll. Who gives a crap? If anyone uses that, they come wrapped individually in paper. Use that paper. And you can wrap things in a naked way. Buy a stocking. You don't need to wrap at all. But one tip I will give you, some of you will probably know this already, but is lots of wrapping paper actually can't be recycled. And the way that you can tell is if you take your wrapping paper and scrumple it up into a ball. If it sticks in the ball, it's probably paper. put it in the recycling, all good to go. However, if it bounces back and it's really hard to get into a ball, it's probably lined with something else like plastic, or maybe it's got lots of glitter on it, and unfortunately that can't be recycled. So we need to always keep our eyes out for this. But this is probably one of the biggest areas me and my family have been thinking about, because I don't know if anyone else has this, but we have the Christmas Day bin bag, where there's a bin bag in the middle of the floor and all it gets is all of the wrapping paper from all of the presents. And last year I remember seeing it and just thinking, the hours worth of wrapping people have done for it just to be quickly thrown into this big massive bin bag, and who knows if it got recycled, like who knows if somebody took the time to separate it out, I don't know. So this year, think about the way you wrap. Can you use brown paper? Can you use old newspapers? Can you put some natural decorations on it to spruce it up a little bit? But we've got loads of stuff. So I think I'm going to go for the naked approach and maybe put it in a reusable stocking. But I want to give some more statistics, and this time about gift waste at Christmas. Every single year, these are in the UK, 1 billion Christmas cards are sold. A billion. That is a lot of Christmas cards, but that is also a lot of Christmas card boxes that could be made. Yeah, am I right? 700 million pounds worth of unwanted presents are purchased every year. Last year in the UK, 21 million people are estimated to have received an unwanted gift. I absolutely know that I am one of those people. Whether it's something that you didn't want or you just didn't want a present in the first place, I bet we've all got something in our minds thinking, oh, I remember when I got that, and found it a year later having not used it. And this was a really interesting one. So on Christmas Day in the UK, 6.8 million iOS and Android devices are activated. So that is like your iPhones, your Android mobiles, or your iPad tablets and all of that. 6.8 million new electronic devices are activated just on Christmas Day. So let's think about how we can reduce some of this. Well, these are just some of the gift ideas that I try to do and be a bit quirky, or some of the ideas that I've got that you could maybe take away. The first one is, and this year has been more taken up than usual in my little life over here, is the Secret Santa. So actually Secret Santas are a great way of not having to buy loads of gifts for people just because you maybe feel like it, or actually just a way of getting a really meaningful one. Secret Santas used to be really common in workplaces, but now my friend group were doing one, my family were even doing one. So actually it's a great way to say, let's all still give gifts, let's still give that joy, but actually let's just do it in a small way, let's do it in a really meaningful way. So Secret Santas are a great shout. Giving gifts that maybe have a charity link to it. So if you're going to buy someone some socks or a hat or a notepad, why don't you see if you can get it with a charity attachment to it? Something that just gives back a little bit more. Home baking. Last year, all of my family got homemade shortbread because I thought it's definitely something that they will like and they will eat. Also think about, what have you got in your hands? Are you good at making soap or beauty products or crafts? What is something that you could share with your loved ones? I know that my gran, every year we just say, please, please, please just give us more jam. Like always more jam. There's never enough jam that you give us. That would be absolutely fantastic. See if there are small, independent, local makers around you, around where you live. How can you support them? I know that experiences is a bit of a difficult one. I would normally say get people experiences, things that they could do, but 2021 is still looking a bit uncertain. However, you can still buy things like subscriptions. You can still buy people online gifts and online experiences. We just need to be a bit more creative and a bit more thoughtful with how we're going to do experiences. Giftgaff is a really cool company I just wanted to throw in there. Going back to that 6.8 million iOS devices, Giftgaff are an amazing organization. They are like a phone company, but they have been doing a huge campaign this year for second-hand devices. I thought that was quite unusual for a big tech company to be really pushing for you to be more sustainable and to not buy new, but they've even been putting out hundreds of TV adverts to talk about it. I really think they're putting their money where their mouth is. But I have a phone, an iPhone, and it is secondhand. So I got it from Giftgaff, and I can absolutely vouch that they are high quality, cheaper, great, but just something to keep in mind if you're thinking about getting a new phone or tablet. Sustainable brands. Can we find sustainable brands that we would love to support with what we can do? Restaurant vouchers. This is also an absolutely great one, because although things are still looking a bit uncertain, It's a way to support our local restaurants who have been having a really hard year this year, but also a great one if you have friends or family who live not near you or maybe even abroad. Sometimes it's really difficult thinking about sending a present all that way. I mean, I already know that my family in Canada will not be getting a Christmas gift because I haven't sent them anything, so that deadline has gone. But actually, think about, can you buy them a local restaurant voucher for one of their favourite restaurants in their local area? A great sustainable gift. And this year, I just thought this was a random one. I've been propagating plants. I don't know if anyone else has got on that train, but I have been propagating plants left, right and centre. This actually came about because the Tearfund Scotland office has been empty for nearly a year, and I risked my health to go into the office to take some cuttings of our lovely Monstera cheese plants, because I said those will be saved, I will save them. But actually I'm giving some people some propagated plants this year. So just thinking outside of the box of the conventional gifts. And one of the funny stories I tell is actually, I asked my mum, what is one of the best things you think about us trying to be more sustainable every year, every Christmas? Like, what's a real positive? Because sometimes it feels like a lot of no's. Feels like a lot of, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And my mum said, oh, it's great. Because me and my mum don't now have that mad rush around Debenhams to try and find the last minute gifts for the forgotten family members. And I feel bad because it was always my uncles. I feel we were always never really sure what to get them. And they always ended up getting something like a Top Gear body wash set or something random with some chocolate. And actually, we don't have that mad rush anymore because we're doing things differently. We're being more intentional about it. And so there are some small pros that come out of this. This is just a really cool shout out that I wanted to give to. Every year, I try and find a charity that I want to support through giving gifts to people. And so last year I chose two. I chose Toilet Twinning, which many of you might know about, and I also chose one called Choose Love, which is a really good refugee organisation. But this year I'm going for Bin Twinning. Bin Twinning is the new toilet twinning / tap twinning new project, and it is basically the same idea as toilet twinning, which is you make a donation, a one-off donation to twin your bin, which is supporting a sustainable startup recycling initiative. They currently have 5 projects that they work in 5 different countries. So they work in Uganda, Nigeria, DRC, Pakistan and Haiti. And each project does slightly different things, but they all are supporting sustainable startups, sustainable businesses, bringing waste collection to people. And this was actually born out of Tearfund's big campaign that they did, the plastics campaign. We did this report called the Burning Report. And out of that, some statistics came out. And that was that 2 billion people across the world don't have access to waste disposal. So I know we love a good rant about our recycling over here, but we are very lucky and very privileged to have that. But also because of waste and waste being left in rivers or being burned or being mismanaged because they don't have management, a person dies every 30 seconds because of waste and because of plastic pollution. And so this is trying to address this by saying, let's support initiatives that are getting waste collection, getting recycling and being really cool. They're doing amazing things like turning water sachets into backpacks and electric e-waste into solar panels. So they would give the Gate Church a run for their money with their solar panels. And so really cool projects, but I just wanted to shout them out because it's something to do with waste, something to do with climate, and it's just great. So lots of my family are getting their bins twinned this Christmas, and I can't wait for them to open it and go, oh, that gift's rubbish. Boom. We love a joke. Anyway, a couple of tips about how do we shop sustainably, even online. A lot of us, I mean, the tiers are going all over the place, and so online shopping might be becoming a bit more regular. But some things to think about. Try and avoid the big stores like Amazon. It was reported, so every single year, Amazon kind of lets us know or releases statements about, how much it's made. And every year around Black Friday, Amazon's sales absolutely skyrocket and go absolutely crazy. But this year, Amazon was actually reporting that pretty much every day since the major lockdowns that have been happening in March and April, they have been operating at the same level, all at the Black Friday level, because people are going mad buying stuff on Amazon. And Jeff Bezos broke the world record for how much money was made in a day, and he made $13 billion in one day alone. So we can all play our little part by trying to avoid the big companies like Amazon. And a couple of ways to do that. Amazon, I will say, is a great place to find things. But what you need to do is find out who sells it, find out who the company are, go to their website, see if you can buy it directly from them, or see if you can buy it from a smaller shop or a local one to you. Supporting small brands, a great place for this is a website called Etsy. It's got loads of local independent makers, especially stuff to do with crafts. Also find social media pages. If you are on social media, it's a great place to find new businesses, new companies around you. I know I found loads. This year, my mum really wanted some tumblers for her Christmas, and we found a local potter near here in Glasgow who was selling them, and I thought, that's great. Like, I would never have found you if it wasn't for social media. Maybe get something secondhand. Our Secret Santa this year is not so secret, and you might have worked out already by this. So I got my mum and she got me. So it didn't really work that well. But my mum actually said, like, what would you like? And I really want to get into outdoor swimming. I don't know if we've got any outdoor swimming nuts on here, but people who are into it are really into it. But I said I really wanted a wetsuit. Now, I know from knowing outdoor swimmers and people that I'm friends with, they say there's so many wetsuits online secondhand, like make sure you get one secondhand. And so my mum said to me, I know you really want this. Will you help me find it secondhand? Because I know that there's loads out there and great. And I got one that, I trust the seller. And she said, you know, I've used it a handful of times. It's basically brand new. It's been delivered. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I would never know that was secondhand. So I've got a secondhand Christmas gift this year, and something that I really, I'm going to say needed, but I didn't really need it, but you know what I mean. And yeah, sending stuff overseas, think about how we can do this a bit more sustainably. Sometimes you can find an outlet for the thing you want to buy in their country, or again, thinking about the restaurant vouchers, experience vouchers, that kind of thing, just to cut down a bit on sending things. And I'm sure you'll all know about, let's use, you know, recycled packaging, like use what you've already got in your house. I'm sure you're already on that. I know that people love books at Christmas, so I just wanted to throw out a few book recommendations. I'm going to quickly do a whistle-stop tour of them all just to give you a little flavour. These are, I think, two of them I've not read, but I've read part of. I'm making my way through them. The first one, so I'm going to go from left to right. The first one is a magazine called Shadow Magazine. It's actually a magazine, it's not a book, but it's a great thing if you want to buy someone, particularly, I think it's marketed at sort of like younger women. So if you've got any friends or family who you think this would be good for, it's a great subscription, or you can buy a one-off edition of it, and it's absolutely great. It's got a wealth of diversity of writers in it, and it talks about so many issues within the climate movement. Bottom left now, Nature's Best Hope. This is an absolutely fantastic book by an American author because it's called A New Approach to Conservation That Starts in Your Yard. So that'd be garden over here. But it's a great one if you've got any family who are into nature, into back gardens, into bird watching. So my grandparents, this is an absolutely key book for them. And it's just all about conservation starting right from our back doors. And it's a really great read to get people interested. Next one up top, How to Quit Fast Fashion. This is a book full of 100 top tips on how to quit fast fashion. This was released this year. It is an absolutely great coffee table book, or a great one for anyone who's interested in ways to cut down from fashion, because we know how big fashion is a polluter and it's a big waster, but we can all do things. Bottom kind of middle now, Saying Yes to Life. This was a Ruth Valerio one released for Lent this year, but it's great not just for Lent. It's absolutely a great resource to do on your own, to do in a home group, to do in a anything group, but it's definitely been a big influential book for me this year. Now going up to the top, No More Plastic. Similar to the fashion one, full of great tips and tricks, great coffee table book, great for anyone who's beginning their journey to sustainability and just wants a place to start. And this was written by Martin Dory, who was the creator of the hashtag 2 Minute Beach Clean. So he's got a wealth of, understanding of things to do. A is for Activist is a great kids book, going into lots of different activism stories, but really good if you've got younger family. Be the Change, Gina Martin, is a fantastic book about activism and really challenging what activism is. And finally, sort of in the middle right, this was a book that was, I've actually got it right on my desk, but I won't move it because everything was full. This was a book that was released this year, and this is utterly phenomenal. I cannot recommend it more. And it is called All We Can Save: Truth, Courage and Solutions for the Climate Crisis. And it is actually written by 50 women at the front of the climate movement, including, if you know, Catherine Hayhoe, who is a Christian climate scientist. So it's a collection of 50 essays, and it has poetry and art throughout it. And the reason I absolutely love it is because it's a mixture of voices, which is great, and it's short essays, so it's bite-sized topics, but also because it is so hopeful and it has solutions throughout it. It is not a doom and gloom book at all. I just know that books are something people love, and books are a great thing for Christmas. Just remember, try and support a local bookshop, or there's a great website called Hive, like a beehive, hive.co.uk, which is a great alternative. It's supporting independent businesses. Let's keep going. Another type of waste that we have at Christmas, food waste. A positive one here though, every year in the UK, normally 300 million plastic cups and straws are wasted at Christmas parties. Sad that we've not had Christmas parties, but well, hey, for the waste, it's kind of a bittersweet moment. Every year though, 4.2 million Christmas dinners are wasted, which is about 263,000 turkeys, 7.5 million mince pies. I'm at least 5 of them. I really don't like mince pies. 740,000 slices of Christmas pudding, also don't like Christmas pudding, 11.9 million carrots, 11.3 million roast potatoes, and 17.2 million sprouts. Now, if this was any other year, I would probably be wasting my sprouts. However, this year, I jumped on the gardening train and I gardened it, so I grew some Brussels sprouts this year. So I'm going to eat them and I'm going to enjoy them, because there's been a blood, sweat and tears that have gone into those poor little Brussels sprouts. But interestingly, if all of this food was recycled properly, it would power a house for 57 years. But food is this massive place that we can solve with waste. Globally, 1/3 of all food is wasted. And if food waste was a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter. So when we talk about waste and climate change and carbon emissions, food waste is one of the biggest places that we see this, especially when food is not disposed of correctly. We know that it can end up creating methane, which is worse than carbon dioxide, and then that is bad for our environment. So how do we reduce food waste? I don't know if anyone else feels like I'm going at a million miles an hour. I feel like I'm going about a million miles an hour, but it's because there's so many things that we can talk about. So here we go. We can plan our meal. This year, that might be making the decision between a turkey or a turkey crown, maybe trying something vegetarian or vegan if we're feeling a bit exotic. But ultimately, we are all going to have Christmases that look different. For me, I have been spending lockdown with my wonderful parents, and it has been a great adventure to be back after 6 years living away. But we have decided Christmas is the 3 of us, and so we are going to plan our meal that way. We're going to plan out waste and not overbuy. But also we're going to have recipes in our up our sleeves for all the odds and ends that you get after Christmas. So for us, Boxing Day Bubble and Squeak is an absolute necessity. Throwing all of the goodness from the day before into a pan with some potato, absolutely delicious. I think I've spelled Brussels sprout wrong, but Brussels sprout tacos, they were absolutely phenomenal when we tried them last year. Just spice them up a little bit with some delicious salsa, and absolutely great. The only way I like to eat mince pies is if it's mince pie ice cream, because if you get the ratio correct, it's more ice cream to mince pie. But if you've got some mince pies that are definitely sitting on your counter in January, you know, it gets close to February, you really need to deal with those. Whip them up into some ice cream, and also a Christmas Day soup. And just some tips, you know, don't overbuy in the run up to Christmas. We've got from now until Christmas. So how many days is that? 10 days. Wow. So we now have 10 days to prepare ourselves. Don't let anything get hidden behind the turkey or hidden behind your carrots. Like, make sure you know what's in your fridge, and try and buy from some local suppliers. But one of the best tips I was ever given to reduce food waste, and this is something that my mum's really bad with, bless. My family just get ripped apart when I give a conversation, but I swear we're not that bad. But one of the things we're really bad at in our house was we used to be bad with food waste. And mainly it was because I learned when I started becoming a waitress about stock rotation, like pull the stuff from the back to the front and put the new stuff at the back. I mean, it changes your life. But one of the best tips I was given, especially about your fridge, because we are ultimately the last line of defense in our house with food waste. If you open your fridge and can't see everything, something is going to go to waste. So when you open your fridge, you should be able to see everything. You shouldn't be like, oh, I have no idea what's in my fridge. Oh, I wonder what's hiding behind that packet of this and that packet of that. But also, dedicate a small space in your fridge and call it the must go now fridge or space shelf. So when you look into your fridge, you can see things, but you've also got a dedicated space full of the stuff that's maybe about to go off, or maybe it's on its last legs, or it's the leftovers. And just challenge yourself to incorporate that into your next meal and find a way to put it in. So it might be some spring onions, it might be some leftover rice, it might be a salmon fillet, it might be whatever, but make sure you're always being conscious about what food is in your fridge and how can you save it. Food waste is a great one. I could talk about that for days. I just want to quickly talk about, because when I talk about sustainable Christmases, the first question I get is, oh, what kind of Christmas tree should you get? Now, this is such a dilemma, and there's probably people in the sustainability world will have different answers to this. But the Carbon Trust is a great organisation who does loads of these kind of cool statistics. They actually did some statistics, some data crunching for us. But interestingly, 6 million real Christmas trees are sold in the UK every single year. And a survey in 2017, though, showed that out of everyone they surveyed who had a plastic tree, 14% of them were going to throw it out that year. So there's a lot of Christmas trees going to waste, and we need to know what to do with them. But the Carbon Trust did some statistics and worked out the carbon that would be emitted from each type of Christmas tree. So a 2-metre natural Christmas tree disposed of in landfill produces about 16 kilograms of carbon. A 2-metre tree disposed of responsibly, so that's burning on a bonfire, planting it if it has roots, or being chipped, it releases about 3.5 kilograms of CO2. And a 2-metre plastic tree has 40 kilograms of CO2 emitted, but we also don't know how long it's going to be sitting in landfill. Plastic hasn't been around long enough for us to even know how long it takes to disappear, but the estimate is 450 years. So the biggest tree dilemma is actually what to do with your tree once you've bought it. So my gran and grandpa have had the same Christmas tree since before I was born. So they've had it for way over 24 years. And so actually for them, that's a sustainable option. And my gran did the whole, we're not going to buy any other ones anyway. So actually for them, that's a really sustainable option. And if you this year have bought a real Christmas tree, do not fret. Just make sure you dispose of it in a responsible way. And there's a great organisation called Tree for Life, which is about reforesting the Scottish Caledonian forest, if you feel inclined to make a donation, if you want to offset your Christmas tree. So yeah, the best option is probably having a living Christmas tree that you can put in a pot and bring in and out every year. But there are loads of ways that we can do it. There's even renting Christmas trees. There's loads of other stuff. But the biggest dilemma is what to do afterwards. And then this is just a fun one. Every single year, 12 million Christmas jumpers are sold, while an estimated 65 million sit in our wardrobes being unworn. So I made a challenge to myself a few years ago to not buy any more Christmas jumpers. So I've had the same one for about 6 or 7 years. So maybe just think about that the next time you feel the urge to get a new Christmas jumper. But also, if everybody wore a pre-loved outfit this Christmas Day, the CO2 emissions saved would be the equivalent of taking 56 million cars off the road for a day. I mean, that is just amazing. And this year, probably a lot of us are wearing a secondhand Christmas outfit. So that's maybe a really positive thing to think about. Rattling through, we're at the end now. I just want to leave you with some places to go and find some more information, but also little pieces of activism. And if we were in real life, I would probably have a leaflet for you to take away and something for you to sign. But you'll have to wait until I stop sharing my screen, and you're going to get a lovely pasted chat message with some links that you can go to later. Very fun, I know, but unfortunately I can't give you a leaflet. But just some really cool places that you can check out this Christmas. Zero Waste Scotland released a hashtag Christmas trimmings campaign all about how we can reduce waste. Check that out on social media. They're kind of drip feeding lots of great ideas throughout December. This is an important but very boring piece of activism. The Scottish Government still have their single-use plastics consultation open. This is one of the most boring but important pieces of activism you might do this year. But it is important because our government have opened up to ask for our voice. And it is so important that we put it in there and actually put what we feel and what we think and what we would like. And so this is looking at banning single-use plastic items like cutlery, straws, polystyrene boxes. If you have any passion for that, get on it. Don't worry, you'll get the links to all these things as well. Really important piece of activism that we can be doing. And if it's a rainy day in lockdown, we've got plenty of time. And I know we're on the 15th of December, but the Tradecraft, they had an injustice advent calendar this year, which every single day was looking at a justice issue. And you can check that out and find out more. And I know that Bin Twinning and Tearfund have both been on it, so you can go and check that out. And they've been on Twitter, and they've been on, I think, Facebook, and so you can go and have a look at all the previous days as well. And some activism to do with Tearfund. As I said way at the beginning, before I rambled at a million miles an hour for 45 minutes, Tearfund's campaign this year is in conjunction with the Climate Coalition. And we have these big 3 asks for the UK government. And so we are joining together with, you know, over 130 organisations in the UK to sign this declaration. And we're signing up with some of our some partners that you might have heard of, you know, people like Christian Aid and people like, I mean, there's WWF and like loads of other great organisations, and it is to do these 3 things. And one of the most important ones for us, but they are all important, is the leave nobody behind. You know, leave nobody behind when we're talking about climate change, when we're acting for climate change. And so it's really important. But what I'd love for you to do, because it is leave nobody behind, unleash a clean energy revolution, and protect, restore, and expand our green wild spaces. And the joy, the thing that you have, is that I'm going to send you a link, and you can take as long as you want to read through it and really digest it in. And if you feel so inclined, it'd be great if you could sign it, and you'd be joining over 100,000 other people in signing it, continually putting pressure on the government to do good by climate change. This one, again, I'll send you a link. Tearfund have a great Pray for the Climate WhatsApp group. And so it's really simple to sign up. I've got a link that you can go to the website to read this all again, but all you need to do is simply add this number, text pray, and you'll be added. And we get a prayer point about every 1 to 2 weeks about global climate change issues and things that we can be praying about. So I will send you that link as well. Join with us. We have, I think, over 1,000 people now praying for the climate every week. Like, I just think that's phenomenal. I absolutely love that. The Climate Emergency Toolkit has just been launched. You have probably seen about this or heard about this in the pipeline. It's a great piece of activism we can do in our churches. I've wrote, get those 2 wrong all the time, my proposal for my church to declare a climate emergency and see what we need to do and what action we need to take. And we've already heard about the amazing stuff that is going on already with the Gate Church and with other organisations. This is just putting a big stamp on it so that we can say, hopefully in months or in a year or in however long, you know, thousands of churches have declared a climate emergency. Like, we want action as well. But that was just released last week, or it was just sort of finished and launched last week. And I will say, no church in Scotland has declared yet. So I know that I'm racing to get my church to be the first, but maybe another church could beat us to the post. And that is me finished. So I would love to stop sharing. I'm going to, while you're all here, I can see you've been in the chat. I've not really been able to keep a hold of it. I've just put loads of links. Feel free to copy and paste that. Or if you do want a copy of my presentation slides, all the links are in it anyway. But I would love to open up for any questions or hear any thoughts or hear any of your ideas. That would be fantastic. Woo.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Laura. The first point that came in the chat was Margaret asking if we could get your presentation. So she asked, I think, on the second slide. It got as far as the second slide before she asked for that. And then you said you would be able to forward it on for everybody. So that's really exciting. Some fantastic ideas there. Well, basically, we'll just open it up, as Laura said. Anybody get any comments they'd like to make? I know there were some ideas already shared in the chat, and some people were competing a little bit on how long they've been using Christmas trees and how many times they used wrapping for particular presents. So I wonder if anybody's got any particular thoughts they'd like to share.
I mean, while people are thinking, one of the best stories I've got is, so my granddad, he's in Broughty Ferry, so I mean, is that classed as Dundee? I would say that's Dundee, but some people might. Anyway, but he has a Christmas card that he has been sending back and forth to the same friend for like over 40 years. So they just take turns in sending it. And he's going, if I get any older, there's not going to be any room for me to sign it anymore. so he's having this like one card just going back and forth. But I thought that's great. Like what a funny way to just like, you know, be a bit more sustainable without even knowing it. So I thought that was great. And we've had a comment about we need to get more colleges who train pastors to declare the climate emergency as if it's a major part of ministry. Absolutely. And I'm trying to remember if it was it the Baptist College who did they did a couple of recent things. And so I think, hopefully from my perspective, I really hope that this is becoming more something that we know about, because one of the things I find really difficult is sometimes what puts people off speaking about climate change, whether that's in a conversation or to a congregation, is like being too afraid because they don't know about it, or they don't know the terminology, or there's a sticking point somewhere, or they're just not even sure where to begin. And so I really hope these kind of education things like become way more frequent, because it is one of the most important justice issues that's happening, and it's happening across the world. So I absolutely agree with that point. I think that's great.
Can I ask Elizabeth, you mentioned tree twinning that you were doing this year. Do you want to say a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. That's some charity that's sort of run in Wales, and they seem to be linked up with a community in Malawi. But you get like just a little wooden decoration just saying your tree has been twinned. But yeah, the project, it's all online, so it knows it. You can see what they're doing there, and it's not just like random planting. They're actually planting some of it to stop people going off the road as well. So it's saving lives as well. I'll find it and send you the link.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And Margaret had obviously mentioned most of our family's wrapping paper comes back into circulation each year. How do you manage that, Margaret? Tell us your secret. How do you manage to keep it going so well?
Well, you cut off the glossy bits, the sellotape and the torn bits, and then you fold it up and put it back in the box, and it comes out next year, or maybe it comes out from somebody else from one of the other boxes, and that's all. Just we have a bin that is rubbish, which probably is not recyclable because it's got either the bits with gold on or the sellotape. But we also have a reuse thing, because so many things you've got a much smaller gift to wrap this time that you put, you can find half a bit of paper to use. It went back when my kids were small. My father looked on in horror when he saw the amount of wrapping paper, and he went out and bought shares in the wrapping paper company. And from there, we were much more conscious of wrapping paper.
That is a great story. I wasn't expecting that twist at the end there. That was an interesting one. David, you were saying a bit about your phone. Your phone's been refurbished.
Yes,
it's quite an old phone as well.
Yes, I mean, I finally got this when my previous phone just wouldn't work anymore. So it's a refurbished phone, and after a couple of years, the battery was getting really, really low. So I replaced the battery. So I'm hoping to get another few years out of it. It's also what I use as a hotspot for most of my Zoom conversations. Yeah. The other thing works. Definitely works. Yourself a nice case. You don't want to change your phone because the case is.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Anybody get any sort of final comments to make? We've got a couple of minutes left. Blair, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just one thing. I've heard about TerraCycling. And that's a very good thing, I think, because they can make plastic bits, seats and things like that, and furniture. And I found there is a recycling place in Selkirk near where we live, and I'm making a little box to collect all my stuff for TerraCycling. So I think that's a good thing to do.
It's really interesting. Okay, anybody else?
We knitted a lot of our decorations in church. We knitted Christmas trees and we knitted the whole nativity scene. So.
That's great, Aina.
I sent you a photo.
Brilliant. We'll definitely share that in the newsletter then when it comes closer to Christmas.
our village has got Advent windows this year. Well, they're not Advent windows because the kids wouldn't wait. So they're Christmas windows, and everybody's got them up from 1st of December to the 6th of January, when we're going to be thoroughly fed up with them. But I was determined to not actually buy anything, to use things that were in the house. So I did stained glass with tissue paper, mainly old tissue paper. And for one of them, for the one that was going to do a nativity, but when you're having it on December the 1st, that's a bit early. So I did Mary and Joseph and the donkey, and I didn't realize how long it would take me to cut out all these legs. But anyway, it's done. But I've got a simpler version, a simpler design for a nativity, just a star and light nativity to go up on Christmas Day, and I'm intending to do that with single-use plastic. I've got blue, orange, yellow, red, and white in carrier bag sort of stuff, and I'm hoping that it'll work with that, but we have yet to see.
Sounds fantastic. Laura, have you got any comments you want to add after those points that have been made there?
I mean, I think it just sounds like you've already got some great things going on, and ultimately at Christmas time we can have a huge influence with the things that we do differently, whether that's giving gifts that are wrapped differently or giving gifts that are different, or just having conversations about waste. And you probably don't even realize the influence that you have. We all have a sphere of influence that's completely unique, but so important, and that is the people you live with, the people that you have on your street, the people that you interact with at church or in different groups. And so just really see that influence and have a conversation. You never know where that might end up, and just be so encouraged that even though sometimes it feels a bit like you're making all of these changes and not much is happening, we do get those massive wins, like shops banning glitter from cards, or having big changes like the Scottish Government opening a consultation to hear from us. We do have these big things that happen because people are watching. Enough people doing something will encourage this, and ultimately from a Tearfund point of view, we know that your signatures on things, or your voices in different places, or even just churches doing things, or all of these have massive impacts that are helping people in poverty who are living at the front of this. And so we know that all of this helps, and no change is too small, no action is too small, and your influence is bigger than you think.
Thank you, Laura. Carrie, what about your own thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Laura, for all your tips. I thought there were some really lovely ideas. One of the things that I've been working on is thinking about the reason that people give gifts is usually to try and communicate something. Usually we're trying to tell somebody what they mean to us. And I've been encouraging people to write a letter, to use that as a way to give the gift of actually explaining what somebody means to you. And I think this year we're becoming a bit more aware of maybe what people mean to us, and it kind of, once you start to think of, well, I've already communicated that to them, the pressure of buying the gift can then reduce, and maybe you still want to give them a chocolate or something, but you're not trying to find a gift that somehow matches what that person means to you, because you are telling them that. So a letter can be a really meaningful gift, which I've been encouraging people to do. So hopefully I'll get lots of letters this year.
That's a fantastic idea. Thank you very much, Carrie. And there's some great ideas. If only we could meet together in the Gate Church and the Carbon Saving Project. But I know you've been doing some fantastic work, and some of that work chimes with a lot of what you've been doing already. I can already think about the comments when Laura was telling us about the citrus fruit being used, and everybody could imagine the smell of that in their own house. So it was really, really exciting to see some of those ideas. Just we've got 30 seconds left. If anyone's got any final comments they'd like to make? Okay. Well, if we could have a virtual round of applause, please. Thank you to Carrie, and also particularly to Laura for her fantastic presentation as well. So thank you very much to our hosts and to our fantastic guest speaker this evening. As you can see, there's a lot of fantastic work being done with Laura leading on the work towards COP next year. We'll definitely be engaging more with Tearfund, and obviously we've got close relationships as well with Christian Aid and Giftgaff, do similar work, but Laura's specific talents you can see tonight in terms of the enthusiasm and the way that she reaches out, particularly to younger audiences, is something that we're really, really keen to support as much as possible. So it was great to virtually visit Dundee and to be with our good friends at Gate Church Carbon Saving Project again. It was a really good mix of people from across Scotland tonight, and I'm really pleased we were able to record it. The chat's got some fantastic links in there, so I'll immediately put that into an email and send out to everybody who registered for this evening as well. And a final thank you to you, Laura, for your time. I know you're actually on annual leave, so I'm really pleased that you were able to join us this evening. We were doubly delighted that you were able to make it, even though you're meant to be off. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's my favourite thing to do, chat about all of this stuff. So it's been great to be with you all. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and thank you very much, everybody who's been able to join us this evening.